welcome everyone to the showcase of TSX Youth Speech Contest. On October 2nd, we have hosted TSX Youth Speech Contest under the topic Do More Together. From there, we have heard the speech of 10 finalists already. All of them have done a very good job. Let's hear what our judges have said about the speech. First, I'm pleased to invite Dr. สาวนิช บุญญาสุวัฒน์ โกศลพิสิทธิ์กุล Vice President Corporate Sustainability Strategy and Management PTT Global Chemical Public Company Limited
สวัสดีค่ะ as the judges your wonderful idea on the climate tackle is very wonderful and admire us. And some actions we need to get the from ambition to actionable is very valid. And yes, the planet is we have just one planet, so we don't have the planet B. So I think from now on we try to be do more together. And tackle the climate together. And I will accept the ambitions to the actionable is the very wonderful idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. สาวนิช Next judge, Mr. ปราด เกิดไพโรจน์ Director of Sustainability Asia and Human Rights Manager, Thai Union Group Public Company Limited.
สวัสดีครับ Hello everyone. I'm glad to be here. Very honored to be one of the judges. And it's really great to hear inspiring talks from various candidates from the ASEAN, very relevant for every one of us. It's one of the regions that is very vulnerable to the issue of climate change. So different candidates talk about all the actions that we can take, whether as individual, all of us, or as a collective action from government for corporate. So it's really great to hear that diversity points of views. I quite like the idea of climate cafe. That's quite memorable and other things. So I'm really glad to hear the speech from the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. ปราด Next, please allow me to invite Ms. อภิญญา ศิระนาถ Head of Exploration, UNDP Accelerator Labs.
สวัสดีค่ะ and hello everyone. First of all, I would like to say congratulate to all candidates that make it to the final round today. To be honest, our judges we had quite a difficult time to make the decision who should be the top finalists. So you guys all did an amazing job. And from me personally, I learned a lot from all of you. And from every speech, we can hear that everyone had kind of the same agreement that the climate change is not individual action. It's not anyone responsibility, but it's everyone. Everyone have to act together to address this climate change, and everyone have a role to play. If no one act it, we won't be able to escape from this crisis. So we have to act together, and this is something that at UN we also push forward and to make sure that we all together address this. So thank you very much for joining us and truly impressive speech. Good job, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. อภิญญา Next judge, Dr. ณภัทร พันธุ์พงษ์เจริญ Sustainable Development Officer, Thai Beverage Public Company Limited.
สวัสดีค่ะ Congratulations to our 10 finalists. You all did a wonderful job. So throughout the 10 speeches, we heard so many interesting ideas ranging from something that we can do as an individual all the way up to how we can be part of the bigger change and how we can drive sustainable development at the bigger picture. So all of you certainly did not make it easy for the judges to decide, but regardless of the results, remember that you've made it this far and you all did amazing jobs, and good luck, and we'll hope to see you at the next contest as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. ณภัทร And the last judge, please allow me to invite Mrs. ต้องใจ ธนชานันท์ Managing Director of ASEAN.
ค่ะ First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the finalists. And similarly to other judges, I'm quite impressed with the research that you have done, as well as the variety of actions and collectively. And furthermore, I'm actually quite happy to see some familiar faces of the finalists, right? So we finally get to establish the community of the public speakers around ASEAN. And I think that is really very nice and such a wonderful thing that we can see. So all of you, I think regardless of whether you get the prize or not, we would very much welcome you back, as well as your friends that are interested in the public speaking to actually participate in our future contest. Thank you.
That's all from our judges. At TSX Youth Speech Contest 2021, the second runner-up goes to Miss Saranchana Romyanan, a graduate from the Department of Chemical Engineering, Imperial College, London, from Thailand.
Climate change affects our nations without bias, without recognizing borders or differences between us. We must come together and work in solidarity so that we can all prosper without the dangerous effect of a warming world. So then, what more can we do together? I would like to propose a bottom-up approach, starting from an individual level to a communal and regional level. Many big green solutions involve government and large organizations, but I strongly believe individuals can take actions too, and as a collective unit will be pivotal to the success of delivering climate targets and beyond. So firstly, on an individual level, if we want the world to change, we need to keep being informed and demonstrate in our own lives that living sustainably is possible. This can be done through being aware about our own footprint, through each choice we make. From the food we eat, the clothes we wear, to our chosen transport to school and work. Our own action may seem small, but it affects the attitudes of others. An example of such was witnessing Greta Thunberg sailing all the way from England to New York. A relatively small action by one girl, but one which started so many conversations among all of us across the globe. Individual actions and awareness are extremely important, but we can only improve and move forward together if we have the right platform to do so, which leads to my next point. At the local level, I would like to propose the concept of a climate cafe, an informal meetup or collaborative space that is open for everyone, regardless of age, background, or education, to come together and discuss climate issues. The cafe would create a space where people can share experiences and ideas that could lead to high-impact actions and wider-scale results. For instance, if you work in an office, consider forming a climate cafe and encourage your colleagues to join in. The meeting could involve investigating the company-wide footprint and identifying areas for future improvement, such as finding creative alternatives to lowering the need for business travel, or researching the more energy-efficient electrical appliances to be used in the company. A similar framework to this office climate cafe can be applied to school, universities, or local districts. Sharing and working among local communities is great, but we shouldn't just stop here. We now must look across the fence to our neighboring Southeast Asia countries. It is clear to see that rising sea level will have a profound effect in our region. According to the Global Climate Risk Index in 2021, 3 of the world's top 10 countries most affected by climate change are located in Southeast Asia alone. Our complex regional geography means it is not possible to run a one-size-fits-all model that have worked well in other regions such as Europe or America. But if we can utilize our region's similarities and work together to develop strategies that fit within our geography and social context, then we might have a great fighting chance to mitigate and adapt to the changing of the climate. So the idea of Climate Cafe can also be implemented on a regional stage to act as a bridge of information between different nations. A great example of this is on our agricultural sector, which is the main source of food and livelihood for millions of families across Southeast Asia. Climate change will adversely affect the agricultural land, so successful flood management and irrigation plans, as well as long-term green solutions, are needed to be shared and developed between our Southeast Asia countries. So if we can form a climate cafe between ASEAN farmers, then we will be able to share expertise and allowing all countries in our region to prosper. This same concept can be applied across all industries at all facets of our ASEAN economy. Climate crisis is not confined to just one segment of society, nor can it be solved by just world governments or big organizations alone. It requires coordination efforts at all levels, including local and regional stages. But above all, this starts with us. The key takeaway from me is to urge you to continue reading, researching, and talking to each other about the climate crisis and the way that we can work together to combat it. Starting by turning to people next to you and start a conversation about climate change. Share what you know and leverage each other's expertise. Because one of these conversations potentially could one day save the world.
And the first runner-up goes to Ms. Jerica Nicole Acelo, a high school student from Taguig National High School, the Philippines.
Me, we. Are you aware that these two words are what create the shortest poem in the English language? This four-lettered poem by Muhammad Ali is quite simple, vague even, but when given enough thought, even the shortest of poems is able to speak the loudest across the various issues that we face today. Honorable judges, my fellow candidates, and to everyone watching at home, I am Jerica Nicole Acelo from the Philippines and a Humanities and Social Sciences student. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you today to the concept of the Me, We challenge. Allow me to redefine this very poem and use my voice to combat climate change. When we talk about efforts in fighting against climate change, we are often presented with one of two options to choose from, the me and the we. The me option represents the individual actions we make to help spark change. With the conscious effort to opt for public transportation, consume less fast fashion, convert to solar energy, and choose reusable items, we are able to reduce our carbon footprint and help the environment in our own simple ways. But is it really all that simple? In a country like mine, these individual actions are not always the most accessible and affordable. To choose to transport publicly means choosing to give up a few hours of extra sleep just to get to work and back home on time, eventually weakening the country's workforce. Not only that, but climate justice essayist Mary Anais Hegler had once stated that the overemphasis on individual actions shames people for their everyday activities, things that they can barely avoid doing because of the fossil fuel dependent system that they were born into. These are just some of the fatal flaws of fighting great fights individually. And this is where the second option comes into play. The we costs a lot less money and sacrifices, but demands for a lot more effort. It includes the collective actions we make as a community and the systematic change that we have the right to demand. By engaging in discussions and events, just like this contest, we are able to reach audiences that are more than willing to help save the planet, but are unsure of how. But of course, our efforts should not start and end with awareness. It must be sealed with application and accountability. Moreover, leadership and commitment must be mirrored by the authority, or better yet, choose leaders that can create and envision tangible solutions towards a more sustainable society. These individual and collective actions are nothing we haven't already heard from all the other speakers before me. But here we are today, with hundreds of solutions in our hands and still barely meeting the 2050 climate deadline. If we opt for change to be attainable, we can no longer settle with choosing just one option of the two. For change to be visible, we must create the third option, the option to join together the me and the we. With the inclusion of the me-we alternative, we combine micro and macro efforts. If more individuals opt to take the bus, more communities demand for stringent policies and wider roads, and the leaders find a way to provide for its people, then, and only then, will we see a shift towards sustainability. Complacency and apathy in the face of climate chaos is no longer a luxury that we can afford. The clock is ticking, and the time is not on our side anymore. By closing the gap between the me and the we ensure that there will still be a me and the we to come in the future. Having said all this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to leave you with a few questions to pound on. Human activities are changing the climate globally in unprecedented ways. But are you willing to adapt to a new mindset? Will you join me as we merge the commitment between the me and the we? Because this can only end with us. Thank you.
And the winner of TSX Youth Speech Contest goes to... Congratulations to Mr. Rex Michael T. Upai from Faculty of Chemical Engineering, Malayan Colleges, Mindanao, the Philippines.
Have you ever noticed how hot it is to walk outside these days? When the scorching heat of the sun touches your skin and you feel like you're burning? If that sounds problematic to you, well, there is something more alarming than getting your skin roasted on a regular sunny day. Did you know that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, recently released their assessment of the current climate change status? It projects an alarming increase in global temperature by 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 20 years, an extreme level of heat that is currently affecting and will continuously affect our world in the most unprecedented ways if contributing human activities will not be altered in the soonest possible time. It is at this period where evidences of climate change are drastically emerging that refuting its existence is a mere act of hypocrisy. As UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in his recent speech to the UN said, it is time for humanity to grow up, addressing how humanity is reaching a turning point on climate change. Now, shedding light to how the world addresses the current problem, we have several blueprints set as an international standard in mitigating climate change. The Paris Agreement, which is currently ratified by more and more countries, is seen as a global collaborative effort, but it has also its own shortcomings. While most of our nations are struggling to be at par with the global climate mitigation approach, us global citizens wonder how our individual actions can make a difference. It is often sensationalized that in order for us to stop climate change, we should be limiting our consumption of this, use this instead of that, change our lifestyle from this to that, have less or more of whatever. While there is nothing wrong from the belief of limiting oneself's consumptive habits to mitigate climate change impact, it could translate environmentalism as a matter of categorizing things into what's environmentally lawful or not, which may convict those who cannot uphold to that ethics. Take note that not everyone has the lifestyle to use electric cars, consume less meat, use LED lights, and the likes. It is not about our personal consumerism. And don't get me wrong, all those things are very helpful. Taking our own individual steps are very helpful, but the question is it all good? Definitely yes. But is it enough? Definitely not. We need to understand that taking responsibility of our individual carbon footprints is just the grassroots of the solution framework. Mary Anais Heglar, a climate activist and writer, once said, we need to broaden our definition of personal action beyond what we buy or use. So an effective action to combat climate change is to channel our individual efforts into collaborative forces that will create realistic, impactful, and long-term solutions. To begin with, we should realize the power of our ability to elect leaders. We should be giving the seat of power to those who are believers of science and are driven to push forward policies for environmental protection. If given the chance to vote, then choose those people who are climate leaders who have backgrounds and are genuine to fight for a greener cause. Second, we should normalize climate activism. Many people nowadays, especially the young generation, are using all available means to advocate their causes, and we should be encouraged to join. We should all raise our voices that climate change is not a product of our individual faults, but footprints of large corporations exploiting our planet. Therefore, we should normalize climate activism and aim of holding the real culprits of climate crisis accountable. Third, we should urge our governments for more cohesive and inclusive policies. Taking example from the world's most eco-friendly country, which is Switzerland, they have this Spatial Planning Act, which preserves their country's natural spaces. Also, their carbon tax enactment, which increases the prices of things that contribute to carbon emissions, encouraging their citizens to switch to greener alternatives. That is how impactful a proactive government can make with its unified citizens. Ideally, even a simple incentive-based program can go far, such as implementing discounts for returning products with plastic containers. Moreover, we can also urge our government to allocate enough funding for science and technology researches to support startup projects aiming to have positive environmental impact. But is lacking sufficient funds. Lastly, we need to change our system. If we think there's lacking, then we should demand for better. That is why we need to step up and urge those who are in the policy-making body to have fangs and be more aggressive against the real culprits. It should be stressed that they need to create timely legislations that would pressure corporations in terms of acquiring permits before operation. That would require their environmental policies and entail stringent legal policies that will punish them for their violations. At the end of the day, the question we should ask ourselves is not, how much can I do alone? But rather, how much can we do together? Because no matter how cliche it may sound, the will to work of everyone is the best guarantee of everyone's survival, as inspired by the words of His Majesty, King Pumipon Adunyadet. Again, climate responsibility is not just someone's responsibility, nor just the government's responsibility. It is everyone's responsibility. We should not wait for the projected timelines before we start taking actions. From the smallest personal actions we can make to the loudest noise our collective voices can make, we should do more together, and we should start now.
Congratulations to all the three winners, and thank you for giving us sustainable solution to climate change. We hope the speech we listened today will inspire everyone to do more together for the better world.